It's Christmas season, the time of year when potential new holiday classics drop in theaters, and today we've got a violent one. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think about Violent Night, and also, what's your favorite action Christmas movie and why is it Die Hard? Speaking of Die Hard, if you're wondering what Violent Night is and if you haven't seen the trailer, essentially it's Die Hard with Santa Claus. Someone took the age-old debate over whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie. They went, okay, well, let's just do Die Hard with Santa Claus as the main character. You can't say it's not a Christmas movie if you got Santa Claus at the center of it. And you either hear that concept and you go, who on earth would want to watch that? Or you hear that concept and you go, that sounds awesome. I am definitely in the that sounds awesome category, but was it as good as I'd hoped? Let's get started with the good, and we'll cut right to the chase. Yeah, it's just as good as I hoped it would be. Feels like the kind of movie that if you watch the trailer for this and you go, oh man, that looks like fun. With the specific tone that they set, the concept in general, getting David Harbour to play Santa Claus. If you see all of that and you're excited for it, it really does deliver the experience that you're hoping for. It's very much a comedy, in which case when characters are just sitting around talking, it can be very funny. It's a cynical, mean-spirited film, so you have to know that going into it. But from beginning to end, my audience was laughing out loud. I think I was there with just kind of a rowdy audience of people, but it was a packed theater, and they were laughing from beginning to end. But then when the action happens, it's very violent and cartoonishly over the top. Like if you're someone that's into horror movies and love gnarly kills, this movie has a bunch of just gnarly, clever kills throughout the entire runtime. And sometimes people are getting shot. You have Santa using whatever he can get a hold of to take out the terrorists. He spends a lot of the movie using a sledgehammer to defeat a whole bunch of terrorists. And there's a couple times where he uses his magic in a couple of clever ways to do things. And you think it's heading in one direction. Like you're like, oh, I know what they're about to do. In particular, there's a chimney at one point in time. You go, oh, I know what he's about to do. He does not do what you think he's about to do. He does something so much better than what you think he's about to do. And so just like as an action movie, it's different enough. And one of the things that's so fun about it is it's a great example of how you can make a movie that is openly and overtly derivative. This movie absolutely wears the fact that it's ripping off Die Hard on its shoulder. It also wears on its shoulder that it's ripping off Home Alone. It name checks both of those films inside of the film. So it's ripping off two classics. And at the same time, it does something fresh, new, and different with them. By having Santa Claus as the person that has to fight off the terrorists, it just does something different enough that we've never seen before while following all of the tropes that you want from this genre, this style of film. In addition to the Die Hard influences, there's a lot of Home Alone in here, except violent, hard R Home Alone, and thus awesome. Some other nice touches in here that give kind of Santa Claus a backstory that's kind of fascinating with where they kind of go with his origins, and doesn't over-explain things. It actually intentionally leaves a lot of mystery to it, and there's some mystery even in his mind of how some of this stuff works. But they tell you just enough to like explain why Santa's pretty good at what he's doing in this movie, and even kind of why this event might recharge him a little bit and spark life back into him. David Harbour as Santa Claus, it's tough to imagine anyone doing a better job in this specific role at this specific time. Just as someone that can play likable grumpy, that is a physically imposing big guy, but also can pull a lot of stuff off and be physical. Oh, getting a spam phone call. Lots of fun in that. If you're wondering how I put images up on my screen, it's just my phone right here next to me onto my Apple TV. And there we go. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. So whether you're talking about the performance itself or the physicality, he has all the traits that you need for this version of Santa Claus. It's the right actor at the right time for the right project. But then you also have some other solid performers in there with John Leguizamo and Beverly D'Angelo. And in particular, Beverly D'Angelo, it's a lot of fun because she's playing a really mean, cruel, crass matriarch for this family. And so just seeing her able to like have the gravitas to pull that part off while just being such a nasty person was kind of fun. And then just at its core, it actually is has a family message at its core. It's about one of the families that's been taken hostage trying to come back together. That's one of the things that's kind of central to this movie. And it plays the formula a little bit differently, but that's kind of what the original Die Hard has kind of going on in it. And it does it here from a different character's perspective. And so you get some of that get the family back together for Christmas vibe to it. There's a lot about Santa himself and where he's at and his kind of state and how this is kind of the thing that he needed at this point in time to remind him of the joy that he brings as Santa Claus. And it's funny because the movie, as I said, it is cruel, it's mean-spirited, it could be nasty, but also it remembers that it's a Christmas movie and it remembers to have those more joyful, family-oriented elements in there as well. So in general, this movie turned out to be exactly what I wanted it to be. As an action movie, you get some cool, gnarly kills that deliver all the sequences that you want in a movie like this, while feeling just different enough because it's Santa Claus. As a comedy, I was laughing out loud as well as the rest of my audience. And then as a Christmas movie, it's got that Christmas spirit in there. There's a few things that might not work for everyone. So let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. And really just the big thing here is what I've mentioned repeatedly, that it is a cruel, nasty, mean-spirited movie with a lot of graphic violence. I was originally going to take my wife to the press screening, but she was out of town when it happened. So I had to take a different one of my friends with me, and he also had a blast with the film. I don't think my wife would like this movie because it's just too nasty in some of the humor. There's a vomit joke. There's some pee jokes. There's a lot of graphic violence. That's not really her thing. So she saw the trailer and goes, oh, that looks like fun. Santa Claus doing Die Hard. There's a version of that she could really like. I'm not sure if this is the one just because it is pretty harsh, abrasive, in your face. And so just go into that knowing it is a hard R. It's has a lot of edge to it. Let's move on to the bad. And as I go into these, I don't think they really diminished my enjoyment of the film, but I do think they kind of put a lid on how much I can praise the film. First one here is, it really is just Die Hard with Santa and a little bit of Home Alone sprinkled in there. And that's the charm, that's the appeal, but when you're an inherently derivative work, there's kind of a cap on how much I can say that you're awesome when it's like, yeah, I mean, you just switched out John McClane for Santa Claus. Second one in here, there's a lot of just really sloppy moments in the film. Like part of the plot involves this little girl talking to Santa with a walkie-talkie. And there's a scene where she's in a room just a little bit bigger than the room I'm in right now, seated on a couch with terrorists with machine guns all around her. And she's on a walkie-talkie talking to Santa Claus and no one notices. No one grabs the walkie-talkie. And you're like, someone would notice that, whether her doing this or her talking. You're all in a room that's not that big. And then there's a lot of sequences, one in particular where two guys with guns walk into a room. There's a bad guy that's 10 feet away. And instead of just shooting the guy on the spot, which would have ended the movie, they like stand there for a little bit, wait for the guy to get out a weapon to beat them to death with. And then they get beaten to death by the guy that they waited to get a weapon for. There's just some of those things like that where you're like, come on. You did something stupid because you didn't block out the sequence properly enough or think through the moment well enough. That makes absolutely no sense if you put any thought into it. But like I said, I think those are some issues with the execution of the film and limitations of the premise. I had an absolute blast with this film. It delivered the exact experience that I wanted. It was awesome as an action movie. It was funny as a comedy. And as a Christmas movie, it had just a little bit of that Christmas spirit in it. Overall, it's an A-. It's an 8.8 on the entertainment scale. And definitely go see this movie if you like R-rated action films. This might end up being the best straightforward action film of the year. I don't remember which other ones came out this year, but there's a strong potential that this is one of the best comedies and best action films of the year. If you like either one of those genres, or David Harbour, or Christmas, be sure to go see this film this weekend so we get more movies like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.